More, let's bring in former Air Force intelligence officer and author of the brand new book, The Revenge of Ideology, Jake Sotiriades, and Hudson Institute senior fellow Rebecca Heinrichs. Welcome to both of you. So, Hamas says it accepts some aspects of President Trump's peace plan. Should we be skeptical, though, Rebecca?
Yes, I'm very skeptical, not just because Hamas continues to lie, but because Hamas hasn't even fully agreed to the peace plan. And President Trump said, look, you agree to the peace plan. Everybody's encouraging Hamas to agree to the peace plan. It's not going to get better than this. And so it seems like President Trump at this time is sort of trying to bend reality towards his will by saying, look, Hamas is moving in the right direction. Now let's get the Israelis to sort of, hold back on some of their military operations so that we can continue to see if we can get progress. But I would say all of the hostages have to come out first. That's issue number one before there's any other kind of negotiations.
What's your take on it, Jake, and what is the most likely outcome?
Look, Mike, I think obviously this is a bright spot in what's been a very, very challenging situation. However, if you look at what's happening now, we'll be monitoring the flurry of events over the next 24 hours. But when you think about sort of the next steps, and as a former intelligence officer, the question I always asked whenever I was preparing a strategic decision briefing is, and it's a question we don't ask enough, is, and then what? If we can get to the first phase of implementation to bring the hostages back, that's great. Hamas has not renounced violence. It still says that it wants to be part of the future Palestinian peace board and future governance there. So this is going to be a problem as we look at future scenarios over the next 5 to 10 years in the region.
There's also been an effort to try to end the war in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is now saying that NATO is a paper tiger. Is it, Rebecca?
No, of course not, especially now that NATO is now committing 5% of GDP, up from 2%. I mean, NATO's military personnel is 3 times that of Russia's. I mean, you look at their aircraft, it's multiple times the size of Russians, their Navy. And now that we've added Finland to the alliance, that's over 800 miles of additional border that further complicates Russia's calculations for trying to intimidate the NATO alliance. So NATO is far stronger together, and that's why it's a good deal for the United States to have a strong NATO, because it does keep the Russians deterred from further escalation beyond Ukraine.
How do you assess it, Jake?
Look, Mike, I think it's interesting that Putin would even say NATO is a paper tiger because it undercuts his own argument that he didn't want to have NATO on his western border. But this is the real issue, I think. What Putin was targeting with that statement is not necessarily the military posture of NATO. It's really the political unity of the alliance. That's really where he's going with that. He's trying to break up, he was trying to create a seam between President Trump, the United States, and NATO. There's no question NATO had underfunded its defense for far too long. President Trump deserves a lot of credit for getting them to come back to the table and rebuild their industrial base. But Russia's ideological model is going to prevent any sort of resolution on this for many, many years in the future. We're in this conflict for the long term.
President Trump is promising to confront China over its refusal to buy American soybeans. What about that issue, Rebecca?
Well, obviously, that's going to be really important to American farmers. You see that we're going to have to do some kind of subsidizing for American farmers in the meantime. Farmers don't want to be subsidized. They want to do trade. And I would just encourage this administration to focus on those issues that really present national security problems. So it's not, it's not things like soybeans. But of course, that's what China is wielding against the United States. I'm much more concerned about China's military growing capability, its provocations against NATO allies, the Philippines, intimidation against the Taiwanese. So I would be really focusing on how can the United States get itself in a better position to get our critical things out of China so that we're not dependent on the Chinese.
What does this soybean issue mean, big picture, Jake?
Well, look, Mike, it's not entirely about soybeans, obviously. I mean, this is the reason why analogies about the next Cold War or that we're in a Cold War, I think are really dangerous because it shows, during the Cold War, only about 5% of global commerce went between the Soviet bloc and the Western bloc. Today, the United States, the Western economies, and Chinese economy are intertwined. So you can't just decouple tomorrow and be done with the issue. This is a much, much greater, much more complex challenge than we ever dealt with. So I think as we look at the future of the competition between the U.S. and China, we're going to see many more issues as this. This is one small piece of the bigger strategic picture that we're going to see. And I think the military issue here, right, the greater power competition that we're seeing is going to be what's really looming on the horizon. And this is a huge issue.
One more thing on that, though. With America and allied scale, we dwarf China's capabilities. So everything he said is absolutely right. But if you combine everything that we have with our open markets, our defense industrial bases, with NATO and with our Pacific democratic allies, the South Koreans, the Japanese, of course, Australians, we can deter China.
The Revenge of Ideology. Wish you well with the book.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Jake, Rebecca, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.